time. It's going to be fun. First things first, hit the like button. That would be much appreciated. Let's jump right into things here. So I'm going to be completely upfront. I don't really go to the movies. I don't really like the movie theater as much as I used to. And for me personally, I'm very kind of picky about watching movies, going to the movie theater and going and seeing movies. And the reason I am picky about that is because of the fact that movies nowadays are terrible. They're not good. There's no good stories anymore. There's nothing original. It's garbage. And that's what I'm kind of here to discuss. And I'm going to pose some questions into the movie on movies. And then we're going to kind of talk about movies, TV shows, everything under the sun. We might have multiple different videos on this. So if you like it, please leave a like. And I would love to hear your guys' response because I'm going to pose some interesting questions that I would love to see the answers to. So let me kind of start right off here. One of my first questions, or something that I am curious about, I hear people talk about, did superheroes ruin the movie scene? And I'm going to pose a really, really good. And the reason I want to open this up with is because it's a double-edged sword for me. I think superheroes saved the movie industry, but I think it also ruined the movie industry. And I'm going to talk about that for a little bit. And then I'll just talk about movies that I like and movies that I enjoy and what I like and what I dislike. So personally, I feel like superheroes saved it because I look at movies like Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, going and seeing movies like that. They were like a big blockbuster. Like when you think about going to the movie theater and seeing big blockbuster movies, those kind of changed the game. Infinity War kind of changed the game because it was a 20, 30 movie build-up to see these heroes all on the screen, all go after Thanos, all do things like that. And that, up to that point, I don't think was ever really done before, especially, like I said, 20, 30 movies of all these characters that we've watched from 2008, which I would have been 2 years old, to 2018. So it would have been a 10-year build-up. Incredible Hulk might have came out 2008 or 2006, whatever. It would have been a 10-year build-up of all these different movies, all these different characters, some of them not well known, like the Guardians of the Galaxy weren't really well known at that time, and things like that. And we see the film, and it's an incredible experience. You have people hooting, hollering. Same with Endgame, where the crowd, like you don't usually when you go to movies, and for the longest time, you don't really say anything. There's no conversations. People aren't getting up out of their seat. People aren't saying anything. Watching the Marvel movies in cinema is really cool, and I wouldn't say I'm a big major superhero fan. I used to be when I was younger. I'm not like super into it as I was back then, where like I was like in love with superheroes. I like superheroes a lot. I'm going to talk about some TV shows that I like. I like a little bit offshoot stories. I like a little bit more action heroes like a John Wick or a Jack Reacher, something along those lines where they're not superheroes, but they're on that like kind of cusp of action. Like you look at like Die Hard. I like things like that more than I think I like superheroes now. But to kind of get back to the main storyline, going and seeing that as a young kid, I would have been 13 to 14 years old at the time. No, I would have been 12, 13. Holy crap, time has gone by. Yeah, that would have been 8 years ago. Holy smokes. But it was like watching that. Like I remember going and seeing that with my dad, and going and like watching the Avengers lose was a creative story. Again, going and seeing a Marvel movie and going and seeing a superhero movie where you have the crowd like, oh my God, because you've waited and you've seen these characters for over 20 movies, 30 movies up to this point. For 10 years, we've been following this trajectory with, we had Civil War where they break up and we're seeing them come back together and we're seeing them fight Thanos, and then we see them lose. At that time, superheroes losing was not something that happened. And then it was like, are they going to come back? Are they going to do it? Then we get Infinity War. We get really cool moments. I know from the research I've done, people actually don't like. People actually think Endgame's a little bit messier and they like Infinity War a little bit more. And I kind of think I like Infinity War a little bit more. I think I liked kind of the character things. I liked like Iron Man and Spider-Man together, and they're with the Guardians of the Galaxy and Doctor Strange. Like, it was cool seeing these characters interact with each other when they never had, and the actors behind them as well, like Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. and Benedict Cumberbatch and things like that. So again, there's not a better experience. But what I do think ruined movies is not superheroes. The superheroes didn't ruin it personally, or not personally, but they didn't ruin movies. They kind of ruined the plot and the styles that movies, like, we're never going to probably get a movie. Personally, I think the greatest movie of all time is The Godfather. I think The Godfather is the greatest movie of all time. I've had major debates with people about it. The Godfather, to me, is one of the greatest movies of all time. When I think of movies, I think of The Godfather. I think of Pulp Fiction. I think of movies, Gladiator. I think of things like that. And to me, personally, I think Godfather is the best movie of all time. I don't think anything can come close. I think where you had the mob that, because of The Godfather, we got The Sopranos, and because of The Sopranos opened things up for movies or TV shows like Breaking Bad. So I think The Godfather really planted the seed of a lot of the things that we get now, especially with those mob style, mafia things. I think The Godfather was maybe one of the first ones. I'm not 100% sure on that, but The Godfather came out like 1971, 1972, March 30th. Like, I know about The Godfather. It's been out for a very, very long time. But I feel like we're just never going to get a movie like that, where it's a story, it's elite level acting, it's great. What I think the superhero genre did was it ruined the kind of stories that we're going to get from now on. Now, again, I think Endgame, Deadpool, Wolverine, they brought... I'm saying Deadpool, Wolverine because that's the one I can think of. I think Shang-Chi, the Internals, at that time in 2021 where the COVID was still happening, those movies pulled Spider-Man No Way Home. That little run at the end of 2021 with like Shang-Chi, the Internals, Spider-Man No Way Home, personally, or not, I keep saying personally, it's not personal. I think, and I would almost say I know that those movies probably saved AMC and probably saved the movie industry in a total. So I'm not dissing superhero movies. I think superhero movies are great for the movie industry, and I think it saved the movie. What I am saying, though, is I think it ruined the way that we look at movies, where now everything's got to be connected. Everything's got to be connected in a universe now. We have to have connected. We need to have TV shows connect. We need to have crossovers. We need to have cameos. We need to have that. Like, for example, you look at a movie like Bullet Train. You have to have Ryan Reynolds makes a cameo. Channing Tatum makes a cameo. Like, things have to have cameos now because people are so uninvested in things. And I wouldn't say it's just a superhero genre. I would say it would be the TikTok, it would be the Instagram, it would be things along those lines that have completely ruined the movie industry, and I find it completely unfortunate because I do look at movies like The Godfather, I look at Pulp Fiction, I look at things where the dialogue, the paying attention to something is important to the story. It's important to the story. It's important to the story. I repeated that 3 times because now movies are dumb and you don't have to, they're just dumb now. Movies are just dumb. I don't even remember the last time I went and saw Avatar 3. That was the last time I did that in December. That's the last time I've been to the theater. And before that, I went and saw Ballerina, which would have been June. So I personally don't go to the movies often because for me to get into the theater, I can't go see a movie that I think is going to be ass. To be honest with you, I can't go and do it because I don't want to waste the time. I don't want to waste the time because it's going to be 3 hours and 30 minutes, and I'm going to walk out of there going, wow, that movie was not good. It's embarrassing what they're doing now. And that's kind of my take. Now, let me kind of highlight it again before we start segueing into even deeper conversations. I don't think superheroes ruined movie industry. I kind of did that as a little shock value, but I think the cameos and having the cameo things and everything's got to have a cameo, and now we have to have the multiverse, and now we have to pull other characters, and like you look at Spider-Man No Way Home, you bring back Tobey Maguire, you bring back Andrew Garfield. I loved it, but now everybody is trying to go for that nostalgia feel now. Now we're getting Toy Story 3 to me should have been the end of Toy Story. That should have been the end of Toy Story. Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, perfect trilogy. Perfect trilogy. I don't even really remember the first Toy Story, but I really like the second Toy Story, and I really like the third Toy Story. Then we get a fourth Toy Story, and now we're going on to a fifth Toy Story that we didn't need. We didn't need those. The third one was a perfect ending. They go on. They have a good time. It was a perfect ending. Perfect ending. And now we got two extra things. And, we had Gladiator. Gladiator was successful. Let's go do Gladiator 2 now. Why did we need a Gladiator 2? Why? I never even saw Gladiator 2. I've seen Gladiator 1 loosely. But why are we seeing a Gladiator 2? Are we going to get a Braveheart 2 now? We're doing pointless sequels because everybody is so addicted to nostalgia for some reason. We can't come up with original ideas, and we're trying to get rid of the AI out of the zone. Here's my opinion, and I will talk about this in another episode of my personal thoughts on AI. I don't hate AI. Should AI be involved? I think I like things coming from people. But if we're going to have Toy Story 4, Toy Story 5, or if we're going to have pointless movies that don't make any sense whatsoever, then let's get AI involved. Because I can sit here and I can name things I can come up with like a $1 billion idea of a movie that I would love to see. You know what I mean? Like, I could come up with really, really good ideas. Now, let me show you. Let's go talk about something here for a moment. We talk about Planet of the Apes. They did a remake of Planet of the Apes. They did Rise, Dawn, War. Elite level trilogy. Doesn't get talked about enough. Elite level trilogy. They go out there. We get Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, is that okay? We kind of have that. Is that bad? I don't think that one is. But what I'm saying is that like Toy Story had that nostalgia. Everyone has that nostalgia because Toy Story came out in like 1997. I believe from a thing I watched, it's like one of the first ever 3D animated cartoons or animation ever. But do we need a fourth and fifth one? I don't think we do. I think the story was a perfect ending at 3, but everyone loves that nostalgia. Everyone needed it. Everyone needs the nostalgia. Toy Story 4, I think, came out in 2019. I went in theaters and saw it. Literally remember nothing about that movie because it was not memorable. Because the third one's memorable, where they're all going to die at the end. It's a heart-throbbing moment. They go, Andy's going off to college. Now they're hanging out with this Connie, Bonnie, something along those lines. They go to there. It's been a minute since I've seen it. And then that's the perfect ending where they pass on the toys and he's playing with them at the end. Super good tearjerker moment. It's an incredible ending to a series. And I don't even really like Toy Story that much, to be honest with you. But that was, personally to me, that was a good ending. That was a legitimately good ending. And then we get a fourth one and we get a fifth one for what? For nostalgia, so they can make a quick cash grab. I don't like that. And I'm trying to think. And then even when we look at kids shows nowadays, Toy Story had I think was it interesting, had some interesting messages in there. Like you look at Brother Bear, for example, had good messaging. Jungle Book, Tarzan, those. Jungle Book's old. Jungle Book's like the 60s. I loved Jungle Book when I was a kid. That was my favorite one. King Louie, dog, awesome. Loved Jungle Book. Lion King was good. I just, for some reason, and I'm going into the animation, but I'm like, we're getting unnecessary add-on to movies, I think, for cash grabs. Again, why did we need a Gladiator 2? We didn't need one. That would almost I guess they ended up doing it, but it would be like if we got 302, which we did, but it was kind of a continuation of the story a little bit. But that would be like perfect ending for the Spartans there. We know the 300 Spartans, so what we're going to do is now we're going to make a movie picking right up from there. Why? Why? Like, we didn't need that. And that is what my main point of this is I think superheroes saved it, but I'm thinking we're just not coming up with original ideas. And then if we do, they're not good original ideas. Like I haven't seen any kids movies. I particularly don't watch kids movies. I watch the old ones like Madagascar 2, the stuff that I grew up on. Like the DreamWorks, Ice Age, those kind of things. I'm 20, so I'm not, it's not like I'm 30 or 40. I know people really like Shrek. I never really liked Shrek. Shrek always kind of scared me. To this day, still does. There's a little known fact about me there. But like Shrek, I think had a really good ending to the fourth film. I went and saw that in theaters when I was a little kid, where it was the forever after, and there was messages in there where like he was upset the life that he was living, and he's like, let's go redo it over again. And I believe they went in, redid it over again, and then he had the gratitude and the appreciation of, I had a great wife, I have kids, I have great friends, and I lose all of that because of, I think, Rumpelstiltskin or whoever it was. And then that was kind of the message. Like he was like taking it for granted for what he had and all the little things that he hated. Like, you want to go into another good movie, Click, phenomenal movie. Click is a phenomenal movie right there, where he goes and fast forwards everything and then it's over with, and he's sitting there and he's watching his life and go by, and he's like, I went and I skipped all of these moments instead of having the gratitude and experiencing them. We don't have those in movies now. Like, I can't think of a movie where I walked out of and was like, wow, that was a feel-good moment in the movie. I literally cannot think of one. I'm going in. Let me go through the last movies I did. I saw Avatar, Ballerina, and then before that it was Deadpool and Wolverine, and then before that it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated. Then it was Across the Spider-Verse. Across the Spider-Verse is good. Across the Spider-Verse is good. Yeah, but like there's just not a lot of kids messaging. I know, again, not original ideas. Like, again, it's sequel this, sequel that. It's like, well, did we even need sequels? And I keep harping on that because, like, what did we need a sequel for? Gladiator was a perfect ending. He like went and got to see his family at the end of the film and touch it. It was iconic. Why did we need to have another movie 20, 30 years later? It makes no sense. Even if it's picking up 20 years after the fact with different characters, we didn't need another Gladiator 2. We didn't. Gladiator was a perfect film, but they can't think of anything else to come up with. They can't. They can't come up with anything new. Like, you can't come up with original concepts and original ideas. Let me tell you something. Avatar 1, 2, and 3, the trilogy has come out. Let me tell you, I've really enjoyed Avatar 1, and I really liked Avatar 2. Avatar 3 I liked, but I felt it was very similar to the second film. Like, same, plot beats and everything, but I thought it was really good. Now, let me kind of tell you my thoughts on it. Avatar, to me, people really diss it and they don't like it and they think it's dumb, but it's an original idea. Whether it takes inspiration from other things, they're like, oh, it's like Pocahontas with blue people. Whether it takes inspiration from something else, James Cameron sat there and he built this world of Pandora, built the floating mountains, built the creatures. He has you going in there with the regular Na'vi, and then you have going in there with the water people, and then you're going in there and you're seeing the fire people, and you're all seeing this. And then you see the humans, and that's kind of it's got good messaging behind it. I'm not saying everything's got to have a message, but I'm saying for a kids movie, usually there was always like a little message in there, but it's a very original concept. It's a very original concept. And that to me, and it's 3 hours long. And that is where we get into it, and where I'm getting into it. People don't have the attention span. That's why people I don't think like it. Because you have to sit down for 3 hours and they're talking and there's dialogue. You have to pay attention and actually listen to what the characters are talking about and the characters are doing. We can't do it anymore because we're so addicted. And I think anything that's taken out the movie industry, it's the Instagram reels, it's the TikTok reels, it's the YouTube shorts, and it's the Facebook. And I'm not saying those are initially bad, but I'm saying it's shortening people's attention span to the point where they can't go and see a movie. They can't go and see a movie for 3 hours. They can't go do it. They just can't in their minds. They can't do it. They get too jittery. They get too antsy. They can't scroll and get that instant dopamine hit. They can't go and do it. I'm not saying I'm scrolling on reels occasionally now and again. I catch myself doing it. Everybody probably does it. But I'm saying that is probably taking out the movie industry. And people I think are, if it's not instant action, if there's nothing instantly happening, but we have to get conversations between these characters. We have to develop the characters. Like I thought Avatar 3 was very good. I thought it was very good. It was very similar to the second. I liked the second one a little bit more because the second one had a little bit of nostalgia to it at that point in my life. I finally went to the theater and saw it, and that was like 20 years in the making as well. And that was a really good film. It was a really good film. It was original. What I really loved about that movie and what it always stuck with me is when in Avatar 2, their son passes away and they put him down in the water and it comes over and they go and they see him in this consciousness, which is God. Awa is basically God, and they're downloaded into the consciousness of Awa, and they're seeing their son. I think it was Neteyam. They're seeing their son, Neteyam, and he's like, "Why are you crying? Why are you sad?" And they go back and they live the memories. I think that was the coolest shit I think I've ever seen. It was so cool, and I'm like, that is such a genius concept where they're all Awa is God in this realm in Avatar. Awa is the God on this planet of Pandora. They have the little thing, they connect to it, and in this connection, you can go and live in your loved ones. You can go live with your loved ones. That to me is so fucking cool. Was so cool. Like I thought about that. Like I sit there and I was like, wow, this is just so freaking cool because it's like James Cameron came up with that. That was an idea he came up with, and that's an idea again. The third one I thought I would say I maybe give Avatar 2, maybe an 8.5, 9. I think it's better than the first one. I would say it's better than the first one. I thought the third one was like an 8. I liked it, but I didn't like it as much as Avatar Way of Water. I felt it was very similar. I felt like while watching it, I was like, whoa, this is like straight out of the second movie. Straight out of the second movie, this is very, very similar. But I liked it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed those characters, and that is what I think is really good. Now another series I think is very good. I'm kind of giving you an idea here of what I look forward into movies. I think one of the best movie series of all time is John Wick. I fucking love John Wick. Love it. John Wick 1, John Wick 2, John Wick 3, John Wick 4. Best action ever in movies history. Best. There's nothing that comes to it. The hard work and the dedication that they put in that film is what I like. Keanu Reeves went in and was training jiu-jitsu, was training in 2-3 gun competitions. He was actually going through with the gun, holding it, doing everything so it looked really realistic in the training that he put in and the time that he put in. They did a documentary that Wick is pain, and they're like, he's walking around. That's because he's in that much pain, because he's actually getting beat up while he's doing it. He's doing his own stunts. The story is amazing. The world is amazing. The characters are amazing. The quotes are amazing. That's what I like in movies right there. That's what I like in the John Wick 1, John Wick 2, John Wick 3, John Wick 4. I like that kind of beat right there, where that to me is the slice of the old kind of movies, where you get that kind of seriousness. You get that kind of seriousness with the characters. You get time with the character, and there's not much dialogue. It's a lot of fighting, but that is the story, and you know why he's doing this. He's doing it. It came in as kind of a revenge story. That was the first one, and then we kind of saw a lot of movies after that repeated. It was kind of, there was revenge stories before that, obviously, but this at that time was like, this is a revenge story here. The way they hype up John Wick, where they're like, John Wick, the boogeyman, the Baba Yaga, just everything about it was perfect, and each character was fantastic. Each character was fantastic. From I don't remember the names. Winston, the guy that played him, was incredible. Theo Reddick, I think was his name. He ended up, I think, was it Theo Reddick? That's probably wasn't. It was something. I'm sorry. I think I butchered the name. My apologies. He passed away before the fourth one came out. His character didn't have much. We didn't know much about him. Was great. Winston was great. Just the character, the build up, the effort, everything that they put into it, the shot. It's 3 hours long. It's amazing. I was never bored. I was never like, oh, this is really dragging. I was so in tune. The martial arts, because like I said, I'm a big martial arts fan. So like watching the moves that he's doing, I'm like, oh, he just did an Eminari roll, which if you don't know what an Eminari roll is, look it up. He did like an Eminari roll, got the guy down to the ground, had him in like a leg lock, pulled his gun out, shot the guy. Then he's got his gun here, a knife here, and he's just going in, taking everybody out. I'm been planning on wanting to rewatch it, Chapter 4, because I've only seen it twice. I've seen the third one like 7 or 8 times. See the second one a fair amount, and the first one a fair amount as well. I was so hyped for the fourth one. The fourth one delivered. But that's what I look forward into movies. That's what I'm saying. That, to me, is a good storytelling. It's an original story with original plots. It doesn't have a source material. They don't have to have cameos in it. And it was just quality through and through. It's like I'm watching it. It's like, I just am loving what I'm, like the character beats, everything, the nod back. Just all the characters. Now the scenery that we're going through, like we go through Japan and these guys got katanas and we're seeing katana fights and we're seeing him take everybody out and then we're seeing him go through. And then they're pulling in real life guns like the Pit Viper, that's a $4,000 gun. And he ends up getting that and he's, then they do an old school duel. They do an old school duel in the fourth one. Like, what is there not to like? It is just across the board awesome. That, to me, and I'm ranting here, is what cinema is about. Because I look back at, like, The Godfathers. To me, I think Quentin Tarantino is great. I think everything that he does is really good. Like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, movies like that, where you have to think a little bit, and the dialogue and the characters. Pulp Fiction, I think, is one of the greatest movies of all time. Same with The Godfather. If I had to give like my top 5, what I think the best movies of all time, I'd really think Godfather and Pulp Fiction are like 1 and 2 right there. Pulp Fiction is great. That's what I'm saying is what I'm seeing here. That's a little bit, sorry about that. What I think is a little bit of lacking in the movie industry, where like Pulp Fiction, it's cutting edge. It was different. There's really nothing like it, where they go ahead and they take the movie and they have it out of order of the movie. They have the movie out of order. So like when I watched it the first time, I'm like, this movie made no sense to me. And then like I went and I watched something to explain it. And those are the best movies. When you're like, you think it's dumb and you're like, this was a dumb movie, but then you go back and you watch it again, or you look something up and you're like, so what he did was he took the movie and put it out of order and made the movie out of order. So it's like you're seeing something happen and you have no clue, and then they take you back. You're like, he's dead, but he's on screen now. How does that work? Vincent Vega was shot by Butch. Butch shot him, and then we see him back again with Samuel L. Jackson, a.k.a. Jules, in the movie. Okay, that's a little bit weird. That's a little bit weird. So it's like, that to me is the good storytelling. It's different. It's unique. it's not, everything's kind of almost cookie cutter now, where I can basically tell you what's going to happen in the movie before it happens because they're all the same. There's no uniqueness. Like, what would be. I can't even think because the movies that we've had out have not been good. Have not been good. Like, I look at Deadpool Wolverine, loved it. They had the cameos in there. That to me, I really enjoyed that. That to me was like, you know what? It didn't. The trailer didn't grip me, but I've heard really good reviews. I want to go see it. Across the Spider-Verse, I was like, people said it was really good. Wasn't gonna go see it, but because everyone's seen it's really good, I loved it. So I kind of wait and look around and see what the reaction's gonna be. But there's a couple coming up. Like I would say, even like the Odyssey has something to be unique, something different. Anything that Christopher Nolan does, like Tenet. Tenet was a very unique movie. Um, Very loud. When I was in the theater, I went and saw that. Super loud. But there was something about Tenet where, again, it didn't make sense, but you go in there and you look up it or you look into it and you're like, because sometimes something doesn't compute with me. Sometimes I have a moment and I'm like, this is just anything time travel-y I've never understood. I'm like, for some reason my brain cannot just grasp the concept, but it's like, so the little boy in Tenet is actually Robert Pattinson's character, and they're kind of going back in time, but we didn't know that they were going back in time. So the main character is fighting this person, which is him, and he knows all the moves he's going to throw because he did it, but he doesn't know that up to that point because he hasn't gone back in time. Very unique. Very unique. Tenet was very unique. It was very, very unique. And I'm trying to think of what else. Like I said, I like the uniqueness where Tenet isn't based off of anything before. It was an original concept that I know of that he came up with and that he ended up doing. You know, I know he did the World War II film with the guy from Peaky Blinders about the atomic bomb. I never actually watched that one. But that's my main gripe with the movie industry right now. I feel like movies just are not producing anything good. And I'm hesitant. I'm always hesitant on anything that comes out. But I will say anything that's like a low budget film for some reason always seems to produce just elite level films. Like I went and watched the movie Sasquatch Sunset. I've always been a big Bigfoot believer. Have always loved anything Bigfoot. We don't really get a lot of Bigfoot representation out there for some unknown reason. I don't know why we haven't gotten a, actually big budget Bigfoot horror film. Like the only Bigfoot film we've ever really had is Harry and the Hendersons, and maybe, I think Bigfoot at Boggy Creek, I think is what it is. That one's like a 50s movie. Other than that, those two, Harry and the Hendersons and Sasquatch Sunset, are the two Sasquatch movies, and I don't understand why. Like, we have alien films, we have, werewolves, vampires, Bigfoot's an untapped medium that you can go in there and you can literally, I don't understand why you wouldn't squeeze out as much of that. Because I'm really thinking in my mind, like, what's a live action Bigfoot film that wasn't complete garbage? Harry and the Hendersons, Sasquatch Sunset. Sasquatch Sunset, genius movie, loved it. No words, nothing to it other than just watching it, and it was amazing. Was it a little bit dumb? It was. But it was, when you look at something on face value, this is what I'm talking about here. This is, to me, what makes a masterpiece. At face value, you're like, oh, this is raunchy, it's inappropriate, it's dumb. But then you look into it a little bit more. Spoiler alert here. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend seeing it. Skip about 2 more minutes ahead in the video to avoid it. So we're at 34 minutes in here. Skip to maybe 36, 37. Spoiler alert. Here we go. So in the film, we're watching the Bigfoot. And they're doing dumb stuff, and they're raunchy, inappropriate, things like that are funny, but we're seeing them slowly get killed off. Like, the father dies, he gets mauled by a Kruger. We see Jesse Eisenberg's character drowns underneath. She's pregnant, and she has a a baby later in the film that's kind of a funny slapsticky comedy moment where it like launches out as if it was a lineman hiking a football. And then we start getting into like the 20-minute left in the movie range, and like the baby's eyes are like going on. I'm like, oh my god, did the baby die? Like, I actually felt like been a couple times in movies where I felt like real dread, or not in movies, but in like Game of Thrones, for example, when the Mountain has Pedro Pascal's character and just crushes him. I was like, whoa, like I wasn't expecting it, and that's what I like. I like when I don't expect something. So I thought the baby was gonna die, and I was like, whoa, like a hit of dread, and like, whoa, this is getting dark. It was kind of dark, but they were kind of funny, and this is getting dark now. And then it's like, it's sad because we keep seeing these two Bigfoot. They're knocking on stuff. They're trying to see other Bigfoots. And this may help because I did watch a video, a review on it to see if it was actually worth watching. And they were like, yeah, they're knocking on Bigfoot stuff. They go into a town where the Patterson Gimlin film this is like the home of Bigfoot, not Reamer, Minnesota. I've been to Reamer, Minnesota. This is the one in the Pacific Northwest. Where up in California, actually, maybe it's not. They don't really count California in there. This is in, I think, California. So I knew where this took place, and there's a big Bigfoot statue. It's around kind of where the Patterson Gimlin film was filmed at, I believe. Might not be remembering it correctly, but they're making calls in the final film. They're, calling up at it, and it doesn't respond. And then the movie cuts, and it's like, on face value, it's dumb, but we're sitting there and we're watching it. They are trying to see if there's other Bigfoots. And from the looks of it, they're the only three left. They're chopping down trees. You kind of see them going in these areas where humans are slowly taking over what is their territory because they have a moment. The only word spoken was they hit a boombox and music comes out of it. And a super engaging movie. There was no words. It's about an hour and 30 minutes, so 90 minutes in total, and it was great. I really enjoyed it, and that's where you kind of get to really see high level acting because they're very conveying with the way they look and how they're acting, and there's no words, so they don't talk, and you're seeing them, and it's just was it very incredible, something different. I usually don't like movies that they don't speak in because I'm a motor mouth and I want to hear words. But I was so engaged. I was focused on this movie for 90 minutes and I was done. I was like, that was one of a very good movies I've watched. But it's the poeticness of it. It's like you think it's really dumb, but they have this hidden message that's there in front of your face, but you kind of don't pick up on it. Where they're the only three left. Basically, there's no more Bigfoot. The only complaint that I really have about the movie is because Bigfoots aren't supposed to be like 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot. They are 7 foot, 8 foot, 9 foot tall, big, broad shoulders, 500 pounds, 600 pounds, massive, hulking creatures. And that's kind of what you saw with Harry and the Hendersons. That kind of big is what it is. They were a little bit smaller. I let it slide. I loved it. Highly recommend watching it. So now I've kind of gone in here and just talked about movies and rambled my ass off. And that, to me, those movies that I've mentioned where there's passion behind it, they're small, those are the best movies to me, where it's something that's different. Because Sasquatch Sunset isn't something that you've seen. There's not a movie out there where you can go watch Bigfoot do Bigfoot things and have Bigfoot shenanigans and go do that where there's no words and the scenery is gorgeous. And I'm actually engaged what's happening here because you kind of don't know where they're going because they don't speak words. So it's like you have to watch and engage. And that's what I like. Something different, something unique is what makes a good movie to me. And you're like, well, that's dumb. What I mean unique is I mean something that's not a cookie cutter. And when I say cookie cutter, where it's like the same plot, where you can go out there and watch movies where it's like, this is just so freaking like, what's going to happen. It's predictable. You predict the movie and then it happens and you're like, oh, that was that. You know what I mean? I personally don't like that. I don't like where I can guess what this movie's going to go do because then it's like, If it's that predictable, I like movies, and I keep saying that. I'm not saying that movie's bad, but I'm saying a lot of movies haven't where it's like you kind of know where it's going. I'm not saying movies you don't need to know where it's going. I'm saying that there's nothing, everything's kind of the same. Everything's kind of the same. Where, if you go watch a superhero movie, okay, guess what? The good guy's gonna defeat the bad guy, and there might be maybe some cringe twist in there, whatever else. You're like, saw this coming from a mile away. I knew it was gonna be him. This was easy. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Is that kind of level where everything seems to be super predictable. Nothing really has that special uniqueness, and it's like that was kind of a waste. It wasn't anything to write home about. And unfortunately, there are movies where they take chances and they suck, and that happens all the time. I know there's people where they go out there and they make chances, and it's like, oh, well, you're saying you want uniqueness, but sometimes the movie takes a chance and it sucks. Like, I went and saw The Green Knight, and The Green Knight might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It was terrible. Was it unique? Yeah, kind of. Was it pointless? Yeah, pretty much. So the reason I didn't like The Green Knight was you have all these things happen, and you go through this whole life story, and he's about to get killed by the Green Knight. And we get this whole story that he walks away from the Green Knight, and it's this surreal, kind of euphoric ordeal. And then he gets this. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I thought it was going to be cool. I thought there was going to be fighting. I thought there was going to be something interesting in this movie. Well, there was nothing interesting whatsoever. It was boring. It was a drag. And then by the end of it, we see all these things happen. He has this belt on. He takes it off. His head falls off. He dies. Then it cuts us back to the Green Knight about to chop him. And it's movie ends. And it's like, so we just watched all of this stuff happen, and none of it ended up happening up to the point of he met the Green Knight and he was going to die. I haven't seen this movie in 5 years, so if I butchered it, I'm sorry. Terrible movie. That's something that was different, that took a chance, didn't reap the rewards. The same actor went and did a movie called Monkey Man, same thing. Different, unique, didn't quite hit, didn't quite have, what you kind of want. It wasn't that good. It wasn't good. It tried to be, sometimes movies they have a shitty story, and they try to be too unique to cover that up. But it's like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So I gave a couple examples there of something that was different, unique, that didn't work. I've given examples of John Wick at that time. From that second one, the first one, where you get into the lore of the character, that's a little bit different. Tenet's different. Tenet, there's back and, there's stuff similar to it, but it's a spy. They're going back in time. Plot twist there where it's like the little boy's actually Robert Pattinson grown up, and they kind of leave it like that. And those are interesting. Those are actually some interesting concepts that I actually liked. Sometimes, again, movies take chances, and the chance is like, ooh, yuck, this is not good. Sometimes they take a chance, and you're like, well, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. So, Avatar at that time was something different that nobody's ever really done with that CGI and everything. He's getting transported into another body. Some real sci-fi stuff where you kind of seen, kind of haven't seen, did it well, and I personally enjoyed those. Some people don't like them. I personally did. So that kind of is what I'm talking about, where it's a uniqueness. It has the uniqueness, but sometimes the stories get too unique. Anything that's super surreal and it's almost like you gotta be on something to watch it, I don't like that. I don't like where it's I don't like anything where it's a dream sequence and that's never happened. It's then what was the point of the movie? If we went through all this rise, if we had to go through the rising action to the climax to the resolution, and none of it happened because it was a dream sequence, is dumb, and it's lazy writing. It is. I'm sorry. People aren't going to like it, but it's lazy writing unless it's done well. But I never, anything with that like dream sequences and it never really happened. Like Alice in Wonderland, I don't like that stuff. I don't like it. I think it, like I said, I think it is a little bit of a lazy writing and things like that. If we want to, and if you want to give me an example, like the Sopranos ending, cutting edge, different, didn't land. Sometimes people go and they try to be really cutting edge, avant-garde, something different you've never seen before. The Sopranos did a shitty ending, then every show after that has had a shitty ending. I'm not lying to you. Almost every single show after that was like, oh, they really took a chance here and it was shitty. Then you have shows that don't take a chance, like Stranger Things. They didn't take a chance whatsoever, shitty ending. So it's like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you go out there and you try to go and do something a little bit different. Personally, I know people raved about the Breaking Bad ending. I didn't like the Breaking Bad ending. I would say, thinking about it in the back of my mind, I think it's a little bit better than the Sopranos ending. But the Sopranos ending was like, it was left kind of open-ended, where he kind of just looked up and it ended, and it was like, what was this? What was this? Sopranos, personally, I think The Sopranos is better than Breaking Bad. Sopranos is hilarious, and it's one of the greatest TV shows of all time. If there was a top 5, it's in there, no doubt. Might even be top 3. Highly recommend go watching it. But I kind of want to talk about, I think, TV shows a little bit in the next one. But that's a lot of like my movie takes, is that when something's cookie cutter and it's basic and it doesn't do anything impressive and it's kind of lame, it just doesn't do much for me. Doesn't do much. And that's kind of the sad reality of the fact is sometimes movie takes chances, sometimes movie doesn't take chances, but I look at it like that's kind of my thing. Like, what would be, let me think of something that maybe I saw that I was just so unimpressed by. I don't go to the movie theaters often because, like I said, if I go to the movie theaters, it's going to be a movie that I want to see really bad, because that makes it better. Every movie I've kind of saw, see, Ballerina was all right. Ballerina didn't really impress me as much as I thought it would. It was good. It's one of the better ones. Nobody One really impressed me. I went and saw that with my dad in theaters. That one was really good. That one always impressed me. Where they kind of, it's a John Wick. I love like that story of the John Wick where it's a revenge story, but it's different. It was something new. And then you have Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul, who is kind of somebody who you wouldn't think of being in that role. He was in there, and that was really good. But that's kind of my take on the movie scene. Is for some reason we're not getting original concepts, original ideas with lazy writing, where that's where I pick my bone with it, where I don't want to go to the theater and risk seeing a bad movie because they're long or it's time consuming, and I'm like, I've never heard this movie, don't know much about it, I'm not gonna go see it. I didn't think the first one was good or whatever else. I didn't particularly like it. I didn't want to risk going and seeing it because I didn't think it was going to be good. So, but when I talk about it, I do think the older genre did a better job, even with movies that weren't supposed to be blockbusters. Like, if it wasn't supposed to be like The Godfather or Pulp Fiction or something like that, it was going to be like a Rambo or like an action-y film like a Terminator. I feel like they did those better as well, where nowadays, like, Jason Statham's kind of in that role of what, like, a Sylvester Stallone would be in, and I think Jason Statham's cool, and I really like him, but I feel like it was just cooler back then. There was just something cooler, where it was like, it was unrealistic, and you could watch it, and it was fun. Almost all the movies are like that now, if that makes sense. Like, that would, like, the Terminator is not supposed to be some super, like, Rambo's not supposed to be super realistic. You're supposed to, like, if you wanted something to turn your brain off to, that would be something that you could watch. Like not a Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood had some really good films, but, like, a John Wayne or something like that, where it's like something that you could sit there and people don't even know who John Wayne is nowadays. That's how far gone we are. John Wayne, one of the greatest westerns of all time, people don't know who he is. But something like that, where it's like you can just turn that on, turn your brain off to it. That's kind of the concept. It's like almost everything is like that now. The attention span is so bad that nothing ever, maybe that's what it is. They have to have something cookie cutter to get people engaged. But I feel like you need to have like home run hitting movies that are going to get people engaged in on things. Same with TV shows, where you have to need to be in the 10% level, 110% in on something to really get it going. I can't really think of anything else that I need to particularly say, but let me I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Am I over here waffling? Because I know I used to talk to my cousin about it all the time. I'm like, movies nowadays just suck. They're just not good. I don't know what it is. Like, even the funny movies, like, you know what? I'm going to tell you this. This is my last thing. Rom-coms. I'm a big rom-com guy. I'm going to admit it. I've watched some rom-coms that were next level good. Because it's like you know what you're getting in a rom-com. Again, that's what I'm saying. When something does something different and they do it well and there's good writing behind it. I watched Crazy Stupid Love with Ryan Reynolds and Steve Carell last year. The plot twist, I was like, holy shit. Because I'm seeing clips of it all over the internet. And I'm like, what is this movie? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch it. I was in complete shock by the end of it. That final 10 minutes, spoiler alert, where you find out Emma Stone is Steve Carell's daughter, and that's who Ryan Gosling's character is dating. It was like, holy shit. And then the guy, Steve Carell, freaking Aunt May in this movie, I don't remember her name. I can't even remember her name as an actress, but she's in it, and they do stuff together. And then she's the son's teacher, just like a genius level writing. And then it has that emotional beat at the end where, you know, he gets up on stage. It was this whole triangle thing. It was done great. We don't get stuff like that now. Like the rom-com movies now, I always I do like the rom-coms. I like with Glenn Powell, Sydney Sweeney. What is that one? I think it's Anyone But You. Anyone But You. I watch that one all the time. Love it. Because those are movies that you can turn your mind off to, and it's not particularly serious, but it's fun and it's engaging and it's interesting. But there's some like Crazy Stupid Love, The Roommate, no, not The Roommate, The Breakup. I don't know why I said The Roommate. I think that one was newer. I watched that one. That one was freaking terrible. And yeah, The Roommate. Let me tell you about The Roommate. The Roommate, I think, is one with Adam Sandler's daughter, if I'm thinking of that correctly. I don't know why. I meant The Breakup with Jennifer Aniston, Vince Vaughn. That's the one that I meant, yeah. But The Roommate, that was a newer, like, rom-com-ish style, was fucking ass. Was terrible. I'm like, we go from the next 20 minutes at the end. I'm like, is this even the same movie? Are we even watching the same thing? Like, it was... I'm sorry, my allergies are, like, really brewed up. But I'm sitting here and I'm getting disgusted thinking about it. I felt legitimately awkwardness in that movie. I'm sitting there and I'm like physically cringing because of the situations that are happening on screen, and not in like a good way, not like I'm like, oh. I did not like it. I was like, let me throw this on. I bet this one might be secretly good. Wrong. Was terrible. Was not good at all. And I'm not dissing, Adam Sandler, like, just like the last 20 minutes where it's like, and then again, here's a pointless cameo. You have Megan Thee Stallion at the end of the film. Why does she even need to be in the movie? You could have had some random person at the end of the film. Why does it have to be Megan Thee Stallion at the end? You see what I mean? We have to have cameos and everything now to kind of, drum up some interest, because for some reason you can't just make an interesting plot. Now that's the bad story. And everything I've said here, I'm not upset with cameos in Marvel movies because they do it in a way that advances the story. You have Peter Parker at No Way Home, Tom Holland. He's at the lowest point of his life. They ask for Spider-Man. They get Tobey Maguire. They get Andrew Garfield, who've been in that position. They know what it's like to be Spider-Man. They can relate to him. And that is a good part of the story. They make sure he doesn't end up actually killing William Dafoe's. They make sure that they don't kill him. That was kind of a weird thing there. I couldn't remember exactly what I was talking about, or what I said there. But that he made sure they didn't do that, and that was a good part of the story. Megan Thee Stallion didn't need to be in this movie whatsoever. There was no point. I'm not even dissing her. There's nothing. I'm just saying, like, why did we need to have this cameo of her in there? Why? The Roommate was terrible. I meant to say The Breakup while I was on there. That was a perfect example of terrible writing with a cameo in there. Everything that was wrong with today's movie scene can be chalked up to that movie right there. Netflix produces some shit films. I think that's where a lot of like the bad movies and the plots where it was like, this is kind of a predictable scenario here, but it was like the way that they wrote this film, I'm like, every single thing with something with two females in it, personally, is always so freaking weird. Because I watched the Bar Mitzvah one, which was his other daughter, who was really young, and it was like, the younger one I meant, not really young. The younger one, and they're young girls, and it's like, I can't relate to this literally in the slightest. Like, I can't relate to this at all. The stuff that they say and the things that they do, it's the grossest shit I've ever heard. I don't particularly like the ones where it's just women. And I'm not dissing women, but it's like, they're saying stuff that women can relate to that I can't relate to this. Like, it's always like stealing your dude. It's always the weird, like, it's almost like men are writing it, and I'm not one of those people that are like really, oh, you can fucking tell a man wrote this. Like, not weird, but I'm saying, like, you can kind of tell that maybe somebody, because it's always like this in the movie where it's like, or a TV show or whatever, where somebody who's writing this, it's always like, I stole your dude, something like this. Oh, here's a tampon joke here, a period joke there. Like, I'm telling you, it's always those three things is always like that. And it's like off the rip when they do women's ones. And that was off the rip in the Bar Mitzvah. I thought the Bar Mitzvah one was a little bit better than this one. But I didn't vibe with it. I was like, again, this Roommate one, I've never had a particular movie make me cringe in the way that I did. I was physically cringing from the interactions. Like, honestly, the acting was great because the anxiety, the social anxiety and the social weirdness, and her like really trying to be really needy and wanted by a friend, I was like, oh, like, it felt realistic, and it was making me like sick to my stomach. Like, it felt real and was making me physically cringe. And I'm trying to put it in that way where that social anxiety, and she's like, oh, she's like, she wants this friend so bad in the beginning of the movie that she's like being really desperate and is like, oh, let me text. And it's something that, you can kind of relate to, but you're seeing it and you're like, oh. It was like, I keep saying it was like, I'm sorry, but it was odd. It was very weird. Didn't like that one. I meant to say The Roommate. The Roommate is one of the best rom-coms of all time. I would go as far to say it's the best rom-com of all time. If you've never seen it, highly recommend it. Vince Vaughn is great. Jennifer Aniston is great. Great film. Hilarious. But what it does is it takes the rom-com, and I heard Vince Vaughn talk about it, it takes what you know about a rom-com, but at the end it's not a happy ending. And maybe that's the weirdo and the sickness in me, where I'm just sick like that, where I'm like, sometimes you don't always get the happy ending. Sometimes you don't. Like at the end of Infinity War, I liked it because the heroes don't always win sometimes. And I like when they kind of dive into that a little bit, where they end up breaking up and they don't get back together. Because every rom-com, it's like when you watch the one I was talking about with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, it's like, oh, they hate each other, but they're going to get together by the end of the film, so you kind of know what's already going to happen. That's kind of the cookie cutter. But with the breakup, you're like, oh, you're thinking because it's every other ones they get back together, but they don't. They don't get back together. They stay separate. I think even at the end of Crazy Stupid Love, they didn't get back together. They kind of stayed broken up. Maybe they did. I can't remember exactly, but it was like it was like that. You know what I mean? It was interesting because you see kind of that paradigm shift in Crazy Stupid Love where you see Steve Carell's character kind of go and be the player, and you see Ryan Gosling's character, he wants to settle down and actually have a legitimate relationship and things like that. Another great rom-com, The Holiday, that one was, you kind of know what you're getting with that. You kind of know Crazy Stupid Love was a little bit different, worked really well, one of the best ones I've seen. That's what I'm talking about. It has a uniqueness. It's memorable. It's memorable. That's what these movies don't really have these days. Is they're not memorable. They don't have a good story, and it's cookie cutter. But when it's a rom com, you know what you're getting. A rom com, you know what you're gonna get, and you don't really care because you know what kind of movie that's gonna be, and you know that the end they're gonna end up. That's why the breakup is so good because, spoiler alert, they didn't end up back together at the end of the movie. They didn't end up back together. And it was one where you were expecting them to, but they didn't. They run into each other. And that's kind of probably what it's like in real life. It's probably what it is. Where you break up with somebody, they both kind of tried to get back together, but you could just tell it wasn't working. They went their separate ways. They both leveled up in life. She went on and did her own thing. He went on and did their own thing. They bump into each other. And it was like, oh, hey, maybe we should go get dinner sometime and catch up as maybe like a cordial friends. And I really liked it, and it was something different, and it wasn't that. Maybe I'm just asking for too much with different stuff. And when I say that again, I know what you're getting with a rom com, but I'm saying that's why Crazy Stupid Love I think is up there, and that's why I think the breakup's up there because it's so memorable. It's memorable because they did something that was different from the norm. They did something that was different from the norm, and that's what makes it so well thought out. Grown Ups was kind of, I would say, another comedy movie that was a little bit different for its time, where you have all of these guys together and they were friends and they grow up and they kind of do things. I love the Grown Ups. Again, these are movies that you can kind of turn your mind off to, but then they have that good of a story and then investment. Like when you have that whole thing in Crazy Stupid Love where all four of these guys and then David Lindhagen shows up and Ryan Gosling's like, oh, this is David Lindhagen, boom, gets up, ready to throw down for Steve Carell. Obviously, Ryan Gosling being in there, Emma Stone, Steve Carell, with that good of actors on there, or actors and actresses, excuse me, you kind of know it's going to be a good one. You know it's going to be a good one, and you know it's going to be a high-level performance, and it was phenomenal. Highly recommend those ones. But that's kind of my beat with the movies now, is I've went on this tangent. I told you movies I didn't like. I told you movies I liked. The main kind of thing that I'm trying to say is, I was going to wrap this up 15 minutes ago, but I'm just going to keep going. You guys are seeing the motor mouth in full effect. But that's kind of what I'm talking about, is there's nothing like that. Like I can't even tell you something that I saw recently that I particularly thought was, oh, this isn't good. There was something. I didn't think The Roommate was good, and a lot of the stuff you kind of see on Netflix, that might be it. That might have been a perfect example, and I didn't even mean to say that. I didn't even mean to mention that one. But that's where, for me, movies don't have that kind of same energy, where I don't think we're going to see blockbusters like a Godfather, like a Pulp Fiction. We're not going to see things like that. Quentin Tarantino, I think, is one of the best directors of all time because he does unique projects. Django was great. Django was phenomenal. Hateful Eight was great. Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction. I think I've seen pretty much most of them. I've seen, I think, the first Kill Bill. I haven't seen the other few, but those are always good films, and those are always unique. Like I said, Pulp Fiction is one of the best ones of all time. 300 I've always enjoyed. Gladiator's really good. I've watched like 2 minutes of Braveheart. There's some that I still need to touch up on. There's some movies I still need to get going and really dive into and really enjoy. But that's what I'm saying. Uniqueness, good writing, good storytelling. That's all you kind of need. But for some reason, I feel like we're just not seeing it. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed it. Like I said, it's either a cameo fest where you have to have 25 different cameos, or it's a basic story that's not. They do that a lot in kids shows or kids movies where it's a very basic story. It's kind of always the same because for some reason kids can't have intellectual things anymore. You know, this is unrelated, but going back and like watching some of these movies a couple years back, like Ice Age, holy crap, they're inappropriate. They're so inappropriate. It's unbelievable. And it's like now as an adult going and watching, I'm like, no wonder. No wonder the parents like these so much. No wonder the parents like Shrek so much because they're so freaking inappropriate. And if they're like blatantly inappropriate, but if you're not old enough, you're not gonna get it. Like Sid, and I think it was Age of Extinction or what? Or no, that's Transformers. Um, Whatever the one with the dinosaurs, like Dawn of the Dinosaurs or whatever, he like grabs a goat and he's like, "Oh, thought you were a mommy goat," and it's just funny. It's like funny because I haven't watched it since I was a kid. You watch it now, you're like, "Oh my god!" Everything that's coming out of their mouths are literally raunchy and inappropriate. I don't know if they do. I don't think they do a lot of dirty jokes in Disney movies. I know they don't, but I always like the inappropriate jokes. Was my favorite. I only really watch anything PG-13 or rated R, and mainly rated R because I can't, I can't. If they can't say fuck, I'm just not down with it. You know what I mean? I'm just when they're like "freak you, man," it's like just say fuck, just say it. Like let's not beat around the bush here. Let loose and say it. But yeah, that's kind of my thing. I like a little bit of uniqueness. I think the uniqueness, the stories, what we're getting is just not good these days anymore. I look around and we just don't get anything quality coming out of the movie scene. To be honest with you, I think the only things that are particularly worth going and seeing the movies for are the blockbusters that Marvel produces. So I think at this day and age, you know what? I didn't go see Superman in theaters, but I really enjoyed it. I actually watched it when it came out to HBO Max, and I really enjoyed it. I loosely like I'm not super into it. I used to go see every single one of the superhero things. The Fantastic Four didn't look good to me, and things like that. Avengers Doomsday I'll go see. Spider Man, always been a big Spider Man fan. I'm definitely seeing Spider Man no matter what. But obviously, this isn't going to be a movie review channel, but I thought I would get on here and have a conversation and see if anyone else has noticed just if the movies have gone downhill, because I feel like they've gone downhill. Like they're so unrememberable, I can't even tell you what movies I'm even talking about because I watch them and I immediately want them out of my brain. I immediately like the only things that I particularly go and watch are rewatching movies I've seen. But I don't even really watch a ton of movies. I don't watch it, and maybe that's what it is. It's YouTube as well. YouTube comes out, they do a whole bunch of good stuff on YouTube where you can have documentaries and YouTube's got anything you want on there. So maybe the YouTube and the Instagram and the Shorts is just killing the movie industry. I think and streaming services as well, but I'm excited to what's to come. I think this is a big year for movies. It's been a while since we've gotten, we're getting the Odyssey, we're getting Brand New Day, we're getting Avengers Doomsday. I know there's Doom Part 2, 3. Personally, I didn't like the first Doom. There's some movies I know people really enjoy that are what I'm talking about, super unique, super different, and I'm just like I didn't like it. Maybe it's me. Tell me if I'm the problem, please. Let me know. Am I the only one that kind of thinks movies are a little bit ridiculous now? I've went in and I've named the movies that I've liked, that are creative, good storytelling. Because that's what it is. If you're going to tell me a story, make it good. Tell me a quality. I want quality. I want good acting. I want good storytelling. TV shows wise, Invincible, one of the best ones out there for an example of what I'm kind of looking for. I don't feel we're getting what the fans deserve. You know, we're not. They're giving us stuff that's a little bit dumb, that's dumbed down, that doesn't have like the heart moments, that doesn't have that interweaving, complicated like a Tenet has, or where you actually have to think about stuff. Pulp Fiction. We have a lot of stuff we don't have to think about now. What about the ones that we do, like in Crazy Stupid Love? Where you're going in there thinking you're not gonna have to like think super hard about the plot, and then everything comes together and you're like, holy, like if you paid attention a little bit more, maybe you would have caught on to it. But anyway, hope you guys all enjoyed this video. I ran it on there. I'm a motor mouth. I warned you guys. Please let me know in the comments down below what you think. Is Aaron waffling? Am I not waffling? Is the movie industry going downhill? Let me know your thoughts and opinions below. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.